being the circus kid is really cool when you're 6, and it stops being cool around 12. So like that whole stretch of like middle school, high school, not a fun time.
We all have those teenage experiences, like I don't want to be my parents, but then how did you find yourself back in it?
So that's a really easy question. I was working for an ice cream shop, and I was making $6.25 an hour. And my dad called me. He was like, I need some help with this show. I will pay you. I think it was the equivalent of $50 an hour. And I was like, oh, okay. All right. You can make a living with this, and much better than, the minimum wage at the time.
You can do this full time and be good?
Oh yeah. So my dad has been a full-time circus performer essentially his entire adult life. And he let's put it this way, he's put multiple children through college with that. I think there's this image of circus people and Ren Fair people of, they're there because they don't have anywhere else to go. But if you have the right skills, it can be a very good career.
What is it about Renaissance fairs? Because it's something that I haven't personally been to, but it's been my experience that people who are into it, they are into it.
I think Renaissance Fair it's a place where you can go and be yourself, no matter how weird yourself is. So for a long time, it was a safe space for, to put it bluntly, the freaks and the geeks of our world. And I put myself in that category. And so we've had this influx, I think, of young professionals, people in their mid to late 20s. They're finally making good money. They don't yet have kids, so they have a lot of disposable income, and they have been coming to the Renaissance Fair in droves.
I'm a boy and I brought 2 kids and I brought them out here to do some tricks. They tell me not to sing, but that's my thing. So everybody, let's get to the whipping, singing. We will whip you. Audience, sing it. We will whip you.
When did you start kind of including the singing in it?
That came out of just an improvised bit. I was working with another whip cracker, and I was just standing there. We both had one whip, and so I'm standing there and I'm just going ch 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 ch, and then he happened to crack just in time that we made the beat for "We Will Rock You." Ch ch boom, ch ch boom, and I'm like, whoa, wait, keep that going. And suddenly we start singing "We Will Rock You," and I was like, wait a minute. You can probably do this with a bunch of stuff. So I started trying out different beats. And so from there, it sort of became this idea of like, okay, well, let's try putting this in the show as what we call the pre-show, which is the pre-show is not your good material. The pre-show is something that's good enough, that's loud to get people to come to the show, because Renaissance fairs, you have show times, but you don't have a set crowd. So the first 5 minutes, you're essentially trying to get more people to come and see your show. And so what I realized is musical whipping, being loud, singing songs, this is a great way to get people to stop by and watch the show. And so I made that kind of the permanent fixture of the first 5 minutes of my show. And that was probably starting around 2012, I would say, was when that happened. So I had a lot of time to fail off camera. And then, this social media blow up didn't happen for me until October of 2021. By then, I think I was in my 13th, 14th season. So I had a lot of time to kind of figure it out.
What was that like, doing something for so long and then all of a sudden, boom?
It was weird. I mean, so the initial videos that went viral actually were not my videos. They were videos of me that a fan took and put on TikTok. And suddenly these videos are going. My wife texted me while I was at work at my real job. I was working at a radio station. And she goes, my friend just sent me this asking if this is you. And so I was like, all right, well, I guess there's a demand for this after I think the second video went viral. So I was like, well, let's make a TikTok account. We've got some old show footage. Let's just put it on the internet and see what happens. And it was very quick. Within 10 days, it was like, oh, okay, all right, there's a demand for this. And then as it continued to roll, it was sort of like, okay, well, let's see if we can make this a career. And I've said, had this happened when I was 22, I would not have been able to deal with it. I would not have been ready to deal with it. I would have turned insufferable.
Hardest type of whip to crack?
Stock whips. So there are essentially 3 kinds of whips. You have a leather bull whip, which is like an Indiana Jones whip. You have performance hybrid whips, which are a combination of a bull whip and a stock whip, and those are what you see me cracking in most of my videos. I call them my musical whips. And then stock whips, they come from Australia, used for driving stock, driving cattle. And they had this weird hinge on them where you go from the stiff handle into the braid of the whip. It's got this hinge on it, and I cannot figure out how to work those. And it's probably just because I didn't grow up cracking those. I grew up cracking my dad's bull whips. So I actually have a pair on their way to me now that I'm gonna try and figure out and see if I can get better with them. But that's easily it. And that and the chain whip, just because the chain whip is, you're cracking a chain. It's heavy. It's floppy. There's a really good chance you hit yourself and hurt yourself. But I put that in a whole separate category.
That leads us into this question, right? Like, what's the worst injury that you've had? Like, how often do you get hurt?
Not very often. I think people think whips are a lot more dangerous than they are. Whips will leave a welt. At the most, they'll leave, kind of a shallow cut. And that's if you really, really mess up. Worst I ever did was in college. I was 20 or 21. And I went to go do a side crack. And as the whip came forward, it caught the back of my neck. And I thought it was just a welt. And then I learned the next day in class that I had not left a welt. I had left a long cut across the back of my neck. And someone in class leans over to me like, Jack, what did you do to your neck? And I just look at them and I gave the whip crack motion. They're like, oh, okay, all right, we're not interested anymore. And I do have mild to moderate hearing loss. And, you can avoid that if you just give your child some earplugs while they're cracking their first whip, baby's first whip.
They're that loud, or you just done it so much that like...
It's a combination of it. So most of the time I actually try to not be too loud with the whips because it's louder for someone on the other end who's watching me, because the whip, when it cracks, is 6, 7, 8 feet away from me. And if I'm on a small stage, that means it's like 2 feet away from the audience. So it's right in their face when it cracks. But there are a few cracks, a few whips that I have where it's just right next to my right ear, and it is loud. So I've taken hearing tests. The hearing in my right ear is so much worse than my left ear because I'm right-handed. Most of the cracking is on my right side.
Is there an aspect of kind of like circus performance necessarily that do whips seem to do better than something else? To say that if you're juggling or throwing knives or anything like that, is there kind of a hierarchy of like, you want to make it, you get the whip?
Well, so I think my dad actually told me about this and talked to me about this when I was very, very young, where I was like, oh, I should learn how to juggle. And my dad said, here's the thing. Everyone can juggle. Everyone in the circus can juggle. Everyone who goes to the circus has seen a person juggle before. And so if you want to be a standout juggler, you really need to be extraordinary at it, or you need to be so funny that you essentially don't need the juggling anyway. And even then, even if you do all of that, there are 10 other jugglers who are almost as good or just as good as you, who could also do that act. Whereas, I look at the Renaissance Fair circuit, there are 3 people who do a primarily whip-based show. Myself, Adam Winrich, Aaron Bonk. So starting just from there, the level of competition is much lower. And that was, when he mentioned that to me, I was like, oh, okay, you're telling me that I can get more work for less amount of practice? Yes, this sounds like a great idea. So I gravitated towards whip cracking for that reason. I also tried knife throwing. I have a knife throwing show that I don't do very often. I have some other kind of miscellaneous circus skills, plate spinning, balancing, both, whether it's on a tight surface or something, let's say on my chin. Lots of other skills that I can kind of pull out, but they're not really, the reaction that you get from spinning a plate is much less than what you get from cracking a whip.